Hello, and welcome back to Beretta Killen's Pro Gaming and Reviews. Today I'm reviewing an absolute classic from the Nintendo 64, which is of course F-Zero X. Okay, I know what you're thinking. Why on earth would you cover this? Well, to put it briefly, when this game came out there was nothing quite like it. And since it's a classic, I feel like it gets slept on in its older years. So why not bring the love forward and let's dig into this review. F-Zero X is a high-velocity racing game that takes no prisoners and will melt your face off in the process. Sounds overdramatic? Not a chance. This was the first racing game I ever saw vehicles go over 1,000 kilometers an hour. I was so young that the numbers were blurring in front of me, along with the environments, and then you fall off the side, plunging to your death, wondering what on earth you just witnessed. If you have never played F-Zero X, to put it simply, you race 3 laps against 29 opponents on a high altitude track in vehicles that hover, powered by plasma or something, sort of like the Wipeout series, except way faster and a lot harder. Like most racing games of the era, the menu select is nothing crazy. The usual contenders are here, such as options, Grand Prix or Grand Prix, however you want to say it, practice, time trial, versus battle, and the unique death race. The Grand Prix has you start off with 3 cups, Jack, Queen and King, with 6 tracks in each. Once you have completed these on various difficulties, you will unlock more vehicles and 2 more cups called Joker and X. Now let's go through the other modes. Practice, which is exactly what you would think. Time trials, which is a bit of a yawn like in all of these older games unfortunately. Unlike me, if you have spare controllers and friends, you can invite them around and play versus battle, though you might not be missing out on much here as it's pretty standard stuff. Last but certainly not least is the death race, putting you against 29 opponents to take them all out in the fastest time possible. This takes place in a permanent loop that goes forward, and as long as you stay clear of the edges, it's not too hard. Once you decide what mode you want to play and get to the character screen, you will notice that each of the characters in the vehicles have a comic book style to them. This is one aspect of the game that really stood out to me when I was younger. The fact that you have comic book style characters mixed in with heavy music and brutal gameplay. Honestly, there was nothing around like this at the time, and I was amazed. Acceleration and braking is what you would expect, with added drift buttons left and right though, meaning you should drift with the direction you are turning, which isn't always easy. You can also attack others by spinning or turning into your opponents with the vehicle and wiping out their energy meter. Every racer's vehicle has a certain amount of health in the form of an energy meter. When you've depleted the meter, you'll be one hit away from death. So every track has a few paths that you can race over and recover health, sort of like a pit stop. But here's the kicker. Once you do your first lap, you can use your energy meter as your boost. With this, it adds a new layer of strategy to the next 2 laps. In most races you'll be hovering around the top places until the end of the race, but near the end, you can use your boost power to fly past them and come first. And you could always boost into another vehicle or wall and die at the last second, which is always nice. You can't always predict what's going to happen with the speeds that you're racing at, so try to keep a slither of health just to survive to the end of the race. A perfect example would be the amount of times I boosted and the next second flew off the side of the course because there's a sharp turn with no walls. Even if you know the course is like the back of your hand, you can still make mistakes due to vehicles bumping into you. Even if you turn too early, it can ruin the whole race. Courses generally have multiples in the same area, such as Mute City 1, 2 and 3, Devil's Forest 1, 2 and 3, besides a couple of stragglers including the Big Hand, which is exactly what it sounds like, and the infamous Rainbow Road. Yes, it's the exact Rainbow Road from Mario Kart 64, just made to fit in with the F-Zero world, and it's quite impressive. These courses can go from flat and easy to having loops, cylinders, corkscrews and high jumps changing between impossibly tight corners in succession. Before each race, you will be greeted with a general layout of the track and the description so you know beforehand what you're up against. This comes in handy as before each race, you have the option to adjust a meter between acceleration or max speed. Having it in the middle is pretty much default, but you should find a level that you are comfortable with. Each character and vehicle have stats that you can browse in the menu, grading their body, boost and grip individually from A to E. So a vehicle might have body at B, meaning it has decent strength, boost at C, so it's reasonable and not too fast when you use the boost, and grip at B, meaning you won't slip out too much when you're turning corners for example. Just say you blow up or fall off for trying to win a race, don't fret, as you have spare machines that work like 1-ups in a way. Depending on what difficulty you are playing on, you will have a certain amount of chances to restart the race. One thing that deserves a mention here is the absolutely killer soundtrack. Sounding like a full-on metal band from the early 90s, each track has fast-paced guitar shredding with double kicks blasting away in the background. The instruments don't sound quite right, a little computer generated or maybe compressed, but very impressive how close to an actual band it sounds in the end. With all the 90s attitude this brings, from its outlandish characters and vehicles to the screaming rock soundtrack that I listen to even this day, there's nothing quite like F-Zero X. It's definitely a product of its time, although with its solid frame rate, it holds up as a top tier racer even to this day. It's a bit infuriating from the difficulty, but this game wasn't made for the faint of heart. This is definitely a game you should check out though, and with that, I'll be giving it a 7.5 out of 10. Thank you for watching, and if you're still here at the end, it's much appreciated. Be sure to check out our other reviews, or subscribe if you enjoyed the content. We will have plenty coming up in the future, so keep your eyes peeled for reviews old and new. This has been Ben from Beretta Killens Pro Gaming and Reviews, and until next time, I'm out.